Welcome to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I started an eco conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. Now, Oxford Clay, I don't just make pottery, I also make books and courses for other potters who want to be more environmentally friendly in their pottery making. And that's what this podcast is all about. And I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Tomlinson. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's episode, this is actually episode 5 of the 10-part series about how to make a raw glaze mug. And I was quite nervous filming this episode, I have to say, because yeah, this is about attaching a handle. So episode 5, attaching a handle. This is where I would say I've gone wrong in terms of my mug making the most. So either attaching it and it's like not quite the right shape or size, or attaching it and it's kind of like cracked off again. And so, yeah, I was nervous, but yeah, it worked out okay in the end. So I'm really, yeah, really glad to share it with you. So we're just going to be talking through how to attach a handle. We talked about how to make a handle in episode 3, how to pull a handle. So we basically pull the handle, we then turn to the pot to leave the handle time to dry, and then this is us like reattaching the handle. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, like I say, with all of this series, if you wanted to see how it's done, you can watch the video version on YouTube. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to see how it's done, then you can you can just click on the link in the show notes of the podcast episode, and then you can see the video of it. So thank you so much for joining me, and let's get on with the episode. Okay, so the time has come now to attach our handle. So I've turned the pot and in the previous episode, and so this pot is now kind of like leather hard, and I don't want it to dry out like much more at all, because then the handle will probably like crack off the pot, and that's like disastrous. So we really want the handle and the pot the same dryness when we're attaching them. And the handles, so just made the handles a little earlier, and then I've been drying them. I dried them actually outside for a bit, not in the sun, but it's quite a warm day today, and also it's quite windy, so they've dried pretty well, like pretty fast. So basically been drying the whole time that I've been like turning this pot. So maybe about 45 minutes outside, and then they're kind of at the point where they're kind of like, oh, they're stuck a little bit to the tile. They're kind of leather hard. So what the dryness I want for these is, I don't want them too dry, but, so I want to be able to touch them without kind of like damaging like the surface of them. And I want to be able to kind of move them around, but I don't want them to be so hard that they're going to be like, just too difficult to attach basically, and, crack off the pot. So we've made 2, and, let's see how we go with attaching them. That's why I make 2, because sometimes it does, like, go wrong. In fact, I this bit always makes me a bit nervous, like, this kind of attaching the handle bit, because it can really make or break your pot in terms of, like, whether it's gonna crack off, or, how it looks and stuff. So what I'm gonna do, first of all, is I'm gonna just make a nice surface to do this on. So I'm just gonna take a tea towel, just gonna do it on the wheel head, just because, then, like, so you'll be able to see. It's a good height for you to be able to see on and stuff. But yeah, just obviously probably better to do this on a table. But I'm just putting down a tea towel, because tea towels are like, they're really good for sort of like stopping things from sticking. And then I'm going to sort of select the best handle. I think maybe it's this one. And this is kind of like, it's been set in the nice kind of, question marky kind of shape. Um, and what we're going to do now is we're going to just hold it up. I'm going to take the pot and hold it up, and just kind of have a little look at like the size of everything, and like sort of the angle we want. And you mean you can look at mugs that you see in, like, the shop or something, like, to sort of get an idea of how big candles are. I've made handles that are too small before, and they're really difficult to kind of hold your cup of tea. But I've also made handles which are too big, and they're also really uncomfortable to hold because it's sort of the cup is kind of a little bit unstable in your hand and stuff. So, like, my advice about this is probably just to kind of like aim for a kind of medium, a medium kind of size. And you can always kind of, if you're what we're going to do is we're going to sort of cut it down to size, and then you can always cut a little bit extra off. If it looks a bit big, you can kind of keep on holding it up to the pot. So right, so we've got our pot here, just resting on the tea towel next to the handle. And what we're going to do for the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to kind of simulate the angle that it's going to be on the pot with some kind of straight edge. So I'm just using a metal ruler, and what you can do is you can hold it across the handle. I might just move this actually so you can see it a bit better if you're watching on the video. Can you see that? There we go, that way. And you can't see that. I'm just going to turn it around the other way. Okay, so we're basically just going to use a kind of like a ruler, like a flat, or you could use a knife for this. You could use one of those pastry choppers, and what it does is it just kind of simulates the side of the pot, and then you can kind of see what the handle will look like, and it enables you to cut like the right angle. So it literally just cut all the way across. I think it needs to be a little bit bigger. Let's go for that size. And then you can literally just, put rest down with a ruler, chopping the handle, chopping the bits off the handle, and then you're left with this beautiful handle. That's a really good top tip, just cutting it all at once, just with like with a really straight edge. Yeah, and like I said, you can do it with a knife as well. So you can obviously reclaim the end bits of the handle, and then you're left with this really lovely handle. And you can kind of shape it a little bit more if you want it kind of a little bit more, a little bit more curved. This one's got something weird in it, probably um, from the from the reclaimed clay, not ideal. But what I'm going to do now is just kind of smooth around where the handle is going to join onto the pot, just kind of so we don't want any like kind of bits like sticking out. And then then now what we're going to do is we're going to sort of have a look to see where it should go on the pot. So I'm just going to hold the pot in one hand and then hold the handle up with the other. And what I'm sort of aiming for here is like a nice kind of like it's gonna to look nice. We want like a nice curve in it and stuff. Um, but I don't want the handle to come up above the rim because then it kind of can make it like hard to wash up. If you're putting the pot down on its rim, the handle's going to be in the way and stuff. And I also don't want it to come down too far, like to the foot. So I want it kind of like in the middle really. And I'm just going to hold the handle up to it and I can kind of see where like a good place for it to be is. So that I think I'm really happy with like the way that looks and stuff. Um, the handle's still kind of malleable enough to kind of bend into shape, which is amazing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of try and remember where it was. I've just got like a knife from the kitchen, just like a butter knife. You can use any tool for this that's kind of like, you know, you can score with. And we're just going to like hold the handle up again where we wanted it on the pot. Try and remember, and then just gonna like mark it because we're going to score that. We're going to put some vinegar there as well. So I've got a little pot of vinegar here, and what I'm going to do is just get a paintbrush with the vinegar and just paint it on where kind of roughly where we wanted the handle to be. There it is, and there it is. And this just really helps to kind of like, yeah, a person taught me this in a pottery class. It really just helps to kind of like, it kind of melts the clay almost, and it really helps to like adhere stuff to to the clay. So this is just, you can use any type of vinegar for this. I just use like that cider vinegar just because I was making a salad dressing out of it. And what I'm doing now is just smoothing the sides of the ends of the handle where it's going to attach onto the pot. So it's a really good opportunity if you want to like kind of at this point to kind of smooth the inside of the handle because it will be much more difficult to do this when it's on the pot, and it just enables you, if you've got any kind of bits that you don't you just want to smooth out sort of thing, just kind of little ridges or something, then it's you can sponge it at this point, and it just, yeah, it's just like a good way of kind of a good point to kind of make it all nice and smooth inside. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to take our butter knife and we're just going to score. So literally just cross hatching where we think the handle is going to go. Hopefully it's the right the right place. And we're looking for, we want a line to, we want it to line up. So we want it to the top cross hatching and the bottom cross hatching where the handle will attach onto the pot. We want them to line up. We don't want the handle to be kind of skewed. So yeah, I'm just looking at that and it's fine. It's like lined up. Okay, the next part of the process is we just want to do the same on the handle that's going to be attached. On the ends of the handle, so just cross hatch this, and this just creates a really nice surface for the slip to kind of really stick on, like when we're going to paint slip and we're going to stick the handle on. So you really want that handle. We don't want the handle coming off. Okay, so the next step is to get some slip. So this is a combination of, like, I slip cast and I just got a bit of slip, which is kind of dried up a bit. But also you can, just use like sort of reclaimed clay, just scoop a bit out, like, if you're reclaiming bin, or you could even make, you can make this up from, you can slake some clay down. If you get some dried clay, it's much easier to do with dried clay, and you can do it with like warm water. That's quicker. You can then just make your own sort of little kind of slip slurry. By just, yeah, just adding water to dry clay, or yeah, take some out the reclaiming bin, or just use a bit of like kind of slip from slip casting that's gone a bit hard. So that's a combination of slip from slip casting and also just some reclaimed clay, which is the same clay actually, just from the reclaiming bin. So just like mix those in a little dish, and then what I'm doing is just getting a brush, a paintbrush, and just painting it on. And we want like quite a generous amount. It's quite tricky to say how much exactly, because you want a generous amount, but you don't want like loads and loads, because um just going to paint a little bit onto the mug as well. Yeah, because you don't want it all like you do want it squeezing out, but you don't want it like squeezing out so much that then it's like going everywhere. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to push the handle against the mug. I'm going to do the bottom one first, push the top one in. I'm going to fix it on really, really well by just like wiggling it, pushing it in, wiggling it, pushing it in, like really adhering it onto the side of the mug. And then I'm just using my finger to smooth out any slip that's kind of come out. And at this point, this is where we can kind of really get the nice, like the shape we want. Oh, it's slipped down a bit. Okay, great. So I'm happy with that. And now what I'm going to do now is just take a fresh brush. Uh, that's not cleanable. I'm going to get a different brush than the slip brush. Just getting a bit of water, and I'm just going to get a brush. These are makeup brushes actually that I'm using. They're really good. They're really good because they've got like a little sharp, like a sharp edge that's really good for kind of like getting in the groove and really adhering. We're just smoothing that handle on. We really don't want it to crack off. So we're just smoothing, smoothing, smoothing. Yeah, paintbrush is great because it can get in a little bit better than, like, like your finger into the joint, and it can really like smooth out that join, which is really good. I'm going to just put it down on the tea towel, and then we're going to pay special, special attention to the top join. You could even put a bit more slip in if you wanted to put a bit more slip in into that join. Can just push it on a bit more. Okay, that's great. Okay, I'm really happy with how that's gone on. I think that's going to be a strong join. But what I want to do is I just want to make it look a bit nicer. So I've got a little piece of cellulose sponge, and I'm just going to sponge the whole area all around that join. Just want to make it look nice. It's a really good opportunity to do this now. Don't want to really wait until it's like any drier, because this will also help to kind of smooth the join. Sometimes you accidentally get slip on the kind of side of your mug as well, and it's like, this is a good opportunity just to kind of smooth that away as well. Oh, it's getting a bit dry. Sponges are a bit dry. They can kind of pull at your pot and then make it like uh create a kind of surface. Like, you don't really want that. I don't want that. So just, yeah, adding lots of water. making sure the rim is back to how it was. I mean, that's not the neatest join I've ever seen in terms of yeah, got sponge everywhere. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take a little bit of cloth, a little bit of a cloth. So you could use like a cotton cloth, a bamboo microfiber cloth. This is just a microfiber cleaning cloth that's made from recycled plastic. Um, and I'm just using that with quite wet actually, just to kind of take away any of the kind of brush marks and stuff. It's just like a really little cloth, little piece of cloth. I just literally chopped it off. A bigger cloth, microfiber cloth. Just going to smooth the rim, just make it look nice. That's looking good. And the good thing about a really tiny little piece of cloth is it can really get in there. So like, yeah, where it's attached on the inside of the handle kind of thing, just make sure that's all nice and smooth as well. Okay, that's cool. That looks good. Yeah, just take any bits that have kind of come off. Whilst you've been doing it, a little bits of slip and stuff, and just get rid of those now. Just kind of, yeah. Oh, there's a random bit around the other side that's kind of like coming from somewhere. Great. So, um, yeah, I think that's going to be good. I think it's going to be strong enough. You can always like support handles if even if you've got a really thin handle or something, you can create a support for it so you can dry it in place. But this one's pretty strong, so I think it's going to be okay. It doesn't need support as it's drying to keep its shape. Um, so okay, so what I'm going to do now, this is the crucial part, is that I'm going to dry this really slowly. So if I just kind of like left this out, it would probably crack. The handle would probably crack off because this handle is drying at a different rate to the main body of the pot, and the rim. The rim is drying at a different rate than the base because the base is thicker than the rim. And so what we want to do is dry it really, really slowly. So I'm going to put it back in a plastic box, and then it's going to dry much slower. We kind of just want to we really want to equalize the kind of dryness of it, which will happen in the damp box. And it will dry. Yeah, it'll still dry, but it will dry much slower. Really slow it down, and it will just make it much more even. And then we've got yeah, just say we've got our other handle, which we didn't need, but it's really good to have like a couple of handles. That's a really nice handle actually. Um, yeah, I've tried sort of keeping these, maybe the next day and then doing it, and then or maybe a few days sort of thing. But they get too dry, so it is really good to sort of do it all at the same time. So yeah, it's a shame to kind of like lose that handle, but I'm so glad we made two just in case like we needed the other one. So yeah, so as well, just to say, don't worry too much about like if it's got like bits of kind of sponge mark and stuff like that. You can sponge those out when it's at the bone dry stage, or a little bit drier than this. We just kind of want to kind of get those major bits of kind of slip off and stuff, and kind of yeah, just make sure it's like properly attached. And yeah, that's really cool. Like we just want to make sure the shape of it, we're happy with the shape of it and stuff. That's what we're doing at this stage. We're kind of attaching it on really well, and then we're just making sure we like the shape of it. And then any kind of like cosmetic stuff we can sort of we're taking off the main bits of slip and stuff. But any kind of like you see some sort of little grooves from like where the sponge has been kind of where it's been sponged, we can get rid of those again, at a later stage sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the zamp box. Um, and then the next stage is going to be we're going to be doing a maker's mark on the base, and then we're going to be getting this base really, really flat, and that's going to be the next stage of our process. And we're also going to be sort of just finishing off any cosmetic work on the pot. So we want to do the maker's mark when it's like leather hard, but then we can fix the base. Yeah, leather hard's a really good time to kind of either scratch something into the base or like stamp something into the base. And then yeah, you can make the base really flat either at the leather hard stage, or a little bit drier even, or even at the bone dry stage. That's you can do that then. The technique I use is basically we're going to be going for it in the next episode, but it's basically just like kind of twisting it on a wet cloth. So you can do that. You can do that any time. But yeah, but the maker's mark we'll need to do that when it's leather hard. So I'm just going to store it in the box for a bit, and then we'll come back and we'll do, I'll show you how to do the Maker's Mark and the base. So thanks so much for joining me today. It's been so good. I'm so relieved that we got a handle on there. Yeah, touch and go, but it was fine. But it's fine in the end. So yeah. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next episode. And until then, wishing you very happy potting. Goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me on that episode. And if you want to find out more about eco-friendly pottery, head over to the Octaclay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. Can't wait to see you there.